back again. How's it going?
Great. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's going really well.
it's an
This
early
is what our
Friday morning.
this is our third episode, I think,
This is
together.
our third of our five special part series,
Wow.
5-part special series.
Yeah.
And last time
I think it was late at night. This one's first thing in the morning.
yeah, I'm excited for this conversation because if you are listening for the first time, my name's David. I'm the host of the MAKEWAKE podcast. And then I'm also joined by my awesome, great slash father slash pastor slash boss slash best friend slash everything. And no, it's
Yeah.
cool. It's cool to have you guys listening in on these kind of conversations because
Yeah.
if you don't know us, we talk probably 24/7. My wife is like, who are you talking to? Your dad again? And I say, yep. And we're usually talking about life, faith, church, people, friends, how to just be our best selves that God's kind of called us to be, and how to help people understand that they can do that as well. So it's cool that you guys are
Yeah.
joining in on this conversation, either on YouTube watching or even just maybe the audio version. So today's conversation is a fun one though. We
Yeah.
we kind of come into these conversations a little willy-nilly. We plan a little bit.
Yeah.
A
They kind
little
of take
bit.
on a life of their own for sure.
We literally says, "What about this?" Oh, sure. And then we get on the conversation. It's like, okay, sure, why not? But today I want to talk and kind of put this idea of something that you and I have been going through, mainly you.
Yeah.
And I want to set up our conversation with like a little scenario that I
Okay.
believe if you don't identify with this in your life, I'm like, I want a question of like, are you really human? Are you an alien on this earth?
Yeah.
This scenario of we all grow up, David. We all grow up. We go through high school. We go through university, college. Maybe some of us go straight into the workplace right out of high school.
Yeah.
And we've had people in our lives, family, friends, parents, teachers, mentors, challenge us and encourage us to have a plan for your life. A plan, a dream, an aspiration, something that you shoot for, right? Like it's like the charts, like
Yeah.
you should be going up into the right, up into the right. And
I wonder how many teenagers right now are being asked, "What are you going to do after high school?"
I'll tell you right now, I hated that question.
Did you?
Hated it. My guidance teacher would ask me, so like, what's your plan? And what do you want to do with your life? And I never gave her a straight up answer because I just think at that age, yeah, you should dream. Yeah, you should hope. But
Right.
it's way too early, I think, for something like that to really put a foundation of like, yep, my goal is going to be this and I'm going to hit it. It's like, it's very tough. Like it puts a lot of expectations on you.
Well, and I think there's going to be there's going to be the moments, or there's going to be students that are the exception to the rule. I think there's
Yeah.
going to be some students that have a very clear path, and they've known that from a very young age.
Yeah.
I think that's the exception to the rule, right?
That's true. Yeah, you're absolutely right. But for the average person,
Right.
like it's tough. Like it puts a lot of pressure. And I think, to be honest, I'm going to say it, like this puts a lot of anxiety and pressure on young people to make a decision. And then when it doesn't come, this is where I'm going. No, you interrupted me. No, I don't. Like I'm all over the place with my analogy. But what happens is we get asked this, we get challenged and encouraged to have a plan. You should have this because then your life is going to be better. It's going to be organized. And then all of this sudden what happens is, as young people, or even people that are a little bit farther on in life, we've got plans, we've got dreams, and we hold so tightly to these things. Like it's like a firm grip, like you're on a roller coaster of life, and you literally hold so tight that when something comes in the way of your plan or your dream, it just you crumble, you cripple, like you get crippled by it. Like it's not going the way I want it to. Like they told me I needed to have a plan, I had a plan, and now it's not going that way. And I feel like, and to be honest, and why I said all of us should be able to identify with this is 2020 started off with like a bang, like, oh man, like so many churches and organizations were saying 2020 vision, this is where we're going, this is what we're doing. And then they hold so tightly to the grip to the plan, their teams, their church, their community, whatever, individuals were holding. And then we have a world pandemic where it's just like, well, it's all gone in the fan, and we know what happens in the fan. Everything goes to poop.
Mm.
So then what do we do with it?
So there's a couple thoughts that I have running around inside of my head, and this is what I love about our conversations. They're a bit of free thought and flow thought. They kind of go in different spaces. So let me think of, let's first go back to the teenager for a second. And the cultural norm is to ask a teenager what they're going to do. And oftentimes it's attached to this concept and this idea is that you can be and do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Right. And that's noble. And that's kind of sounds nice to say that. But I think what ends up happening is for a lot of high school students, young adults in particular, is that that's not helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Because you truly, if we truly do believe that we're created by a God who is creative and that he creates us very unique, he creates us and designs us specifically for what he wants and sees in us, then the greatest potential we find is within the confines of that gifting or that wiring or that talent. Or too oftentimes we tell a kid you could be and do whatever you want, and well, that just creates more anxiety, that just creates more worry, that creates confusion. But if we can actually help and guide to wiring and gifting and talent and all that, I think within the confines of those things, it's kind of like, let's, I played soccer in the summer again this year. It's kind of like, throw the ball in the middle and you know what, guys, we can just play with, you just play however you want to play. And you just do what you want to do. Don't worry about that out of bounds line. Don't worry about that handball. Don't worry about, and then all of a sudden there's just mass confusion on the field. And I think too oftentimes that's what ends up happening. Now, what you're talking about is I can be and do whatever I want. And then I get into the reality of adulting and I realize that that's not true.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden an interruption comes. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And a pandemic hits, or, a loved one passes away, or you lose your job or whatever. And I think
you can't find the job.
Or you can't find the job.
And I'm told I'm entitled to get a job after school, or you know what I mean? Like
Right.
you just work hard enough, or you just have the perfect resume, and then the job doesn't come. It's like there's so many interruptions that happen within our plan that I don't think people prepare for.
Right.
Like prepare your plan, but also prepare for emergencies.
Well, I think what happened, you're right, David. There is this piece of, I think what we've learned in 2020 is we've learned that you have to hold your dreams, your hopes, your plans with an open hand. How we go down that path for a second?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's definitely parts of, like, I have hopes and dreams. I have ideas. I have pictures in my head of things that I want to see become a reality. And if I'm holding on to them too tightly, then I'm not going to be prepared for when the interruption comes, or something kind of hits me from the side like a sucker punch.
Yeah.
Or, my jersey's up over my head and I'm getting landed haymakers and you're like, you can't see them coming because you're holding on so tightly. Right. one of the thoughts I've had recently is that, and what you're referring to in the earlier part of this conversation was, I had, you know, for the last number of years, I've had a dream. I've had a vision of what I thought
Mhm.
um, I wanted, what, you know, the church that I'm pastoring at needed. And I held on to that so tightly. But then, you know, this pandemic comes, and all of a sudden the reality of that dream, that hope,
Mhm.
um, begins to shift. Or even when we started Vital Point Church, you know, a number of years ago, 6 years ago, 2014, we had a particular vision for it that was a good vision. It wasn't wrong. It wasn't
Yeah.
bad. But it was definitely a model that God was kind of, God was going, you know, I think we're going to change this model a little bit.
Yeah.
And but for so long I was hanging on to it so tightly. Then I started releasing it. Then 2020 comes, and like, you know, 6 years in, and we're like right in the middle of a pandemic, and we realize in the middle of it that okay, wow, you know, there are things that are happening here that we thought we knew,
Mhm.
and the truth is that actually God knew. and
Mhm. What do you
and if we
think?
hold, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think when you think of a plan? You think of the idea of a trajectory of a life and just trying to figure out, like, I'm going to do this with my life. I'm going to have this, and then we hold tightly. Like, what do you think is the downfall of holding tightly? And then what do you think is the benefit to holding openly with like the posture of the open hand? So like the downfall of holding so tight,
Oh,
and then
yeah.
yeah.
Right. What comes to my mind hanging on too tightly is the reality of, you close yourself off to potential new path, to potential new, a new path to walk down. So if you hold on too tightly, then you are too focused on on that particular thing,
Yeah.
and you close yourself off to the possibility that there are other options, there are other avenues, there are other dynamics that can come into play. So you're like gripped it, you know, it's like,
Hmm.
uh yeah, it's there's the imagery of a soldier that's holding on to his sword so tightly that when he gets back to camp, they've got to pry his hand off of the handle.
Oh wow.
That's an imagery that comes, um, out of Genesis, actually, when it says, you know, the husband and wife become one, and they cling to one another so tightly that that's the imagery of that. But you know, the idea though is what we're talking about from a different perspective is so oftentimes we just hang on. Now, the upside of hanging on to a dream with open hands is that you recognize that yes, you can make plans, yes, you can move forward, but your posture is one of surrendering it
Mm.
to God for the possibility of him redirecting, or him shifting it, or moving it, or adjusting the model a little bit. And I think that that's a more yeah, I almost said more exciting, but a healthier way.
Mm.
Because here's the reality of this is, and what you've been referring to is what's going on right now. And you know, it depends on when people are listening to this. I mean, we're heading into a weekend at our church where I'm going to be talking about the possibility of buying a facility, um, that is not the picture that I had in mind.
Yeah, this is not your dream that you thought the model
No,
of what
no,
this was
no,
for the
no,
church.
absolutely not. For Vital Point Church, I had this image in my mind of what our facility would look like, what it would be, and this image and what we're actually looking at purchasing is nothing like that. I mean,
Complete
this
opposite.
complete opposite. This is like a throwback. This building was built in 1905, and you know, stained glass windows. You know, I mean, the whole works. It's like what?
The church pews,
The church pews, yeah.
the church bell and everything.
Oh, dude, the church bell, man. It's like a 2,000-pound bell. It actually functions. It works. I've heard
Yeah,
it
I
ring
pulled
many
it,
times.
man. I pulled it,
Yeah,
bro. It
yeah.
was unreal.
Yeah, I already shoulder tapped someone to be the volunteer on Sunday mornings to pull the bell at 10 a.m.
That's good.
But yeah, so what had happened to me is that as excited as I was about the possibility of this new um, direction for our church, um, I I was also really struggling, and I realized, through a pastor friend, that I had to go down the path of grieving that particular hope or dream
Mhm.
for God to birth something new in me.
Okay, so I want to hit there, right? Because that's something that I think is huge for us as individuals, Christian, non-Christian, anyone on this
Sure.
earth, that there is a process of grieving the old dream to allow a new dream or a new flavor of the dream to be
Yeah.
fulfilled.
Yeah.
Can you hit that grieving part? Like, what's that mean for someone to say, you know what, I'm going to grieve, I'm going to sit in this, whatever it is.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Oh man, this is
Start Google searching. How to
no.
grieve. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I did I did I wanted to Google the actual definition of grieve. Feel grief for or because of, cause great distress. It grieves me to think of you in that house alone, that type of thing. Um, it implies deep mental suffering, often endured alone in silence, but revealed
Hmm.
by one's aspect. To grieve over the loss, the death of a friend. Mourn usually refers to manifesting sorrow outwardly. Mourning is this public display of inward grief. Those are pretty big words. Um,
Yeah.
I think the grieving process of a dream is a natural thing in order for God to be able to bring the new dream into existence. And I've had to give myself permission to allow the grieving process to take its due course, where maybe it's keeping me awake for keeping me awake for weeks on end in the middle of the night, to now a little bit more of uh the reality of, okay, you know what, I've got to trust, I've got to live in that space of allowing God to take me down this path to things that I'm not even fully aware of yet. Because maybe that's even more exciting in the process of grieving, is putting to death what you thought your vision and dream was, to allow God to birth a new dream and a vision that's even bigger and better,
Yeah. Wow.
and that we can't even see yet or know yet.
Yeah, it's like he wants you to grieve, process, maybe lay awake at night, hurt, maybe
Yeah.
not knowing what to do, but it's going to grow you into being resilient and understanding, okay,
Yeah.
maybe this new path, maybe this new door that's open, this new opportunity, um, that feels a little odd, but it's going to be actually where I'm going to propel myself into
Right.
something that is more
Right.
fruitful or more impactful or more
Right.
along the line of what you said, of like, it's maybe more of his plan, um, for your dream. Because I really do believe that, like, we are given this idea, not this idea, but this ability to dream. Like, I love the fact that we as human beings, we are creative, we are able to do things, we have a
Yeah.
will that God
Yep.
desires us to move and grow and be creative. I love the fact that we get to say, you know what, I'm going to dream, I'm going to try to catch this, I'm going to try to do this with my life. And I think there's something so beautiful about creating that mindset of, I can do something with my life. I've been given the power. I've been given the control. Now, there's another topic that
Yeah.
we probably shouldn't get into, is too much power, too much control. But I think it's just so beautiful that God's given us this idea and this opportunity to dream, but he still wants us to fulfill the plan that he has for this world,
Right.
for yourself, for this world, a group of people, whatever it is.
Yeah, Dave, this is gonna sound a little bit contradictory because of what we've been talking about. There's what is it? Jeremiah 29:11. You know, God says, I have a plan for
Yeah.
you. I think you've got it tattooed on your arm.
Yeah, I do.
And, you know, you look at Proverbs 16, where it
Mm-hmm.
talks about this idea of, you know, we can make our plans, but, you know, God determines our steps. I may have just brutally massacred that verse, um, but the reality is that there's a ebb and flow to the interaction of my faith journey, my hopes and my dreams, into this truth that we partner with God in creating the future,
Mm-hmm.
and that the plan that he has for us, I'm going to make some people squirm, it may not necessarily be, yeah, I want you to go this way, but it's in the steps that you take, you actually create that
Yeah.
future. So we move towards the picture and image that God has for us. Like, you know, you think about Abraham going to you know, God says, I got a land for you. I'm not going to tell you where it is. I just want you to go. And you know, in Genesis, things like 12 or something like that, or
Yeah.
he goes, right? And it was by faith that he went. And as he went, he was stepping into the future that God had for
Mm-hmm.
him, but he was also creating it as he went. And so there's this dynamic of holding our hopes and dreams with open hands, knowing perfectly well that God is going to walk with me in the creation of that. But maybe there's times where he kind of goes, yeah, I do have to redirect you a little bit, because that's not it's
Mm-hmm.
not wrong or bad, but it's just not the best that I had in mind for you. And, you know, like I think about what we're going through, like, you know, we're walking down this, you know, we need a centralized location that was going to allow our London region to gather. We need a centralized location that's going to continue to support the ever expanding into smaller towns and other places. And I had in my mind, and that dream was still there. I was moving towards that, and our leadership board is moving towards that. But as we were moving towards that, to create that future that we knew that God wanted for us, he has been redirecting
Yeah.
that dream to a place that is, you know, responsible. It's going to do everything that we hoped and dreamed in this other thing, but this other thing was going to be, you know, millions and millions and millions of dollars, and this is not, you
Yeah.
know. And so,
And I think that's what's beautiful about when opening up your hands for something like this, like a dream, like no matter
yeah,
what it is, having those open hands. I don't think there's a part of the grieving process that's huge, right? You had to grieve the old dream so the new one can be fulfilled in a new, beautiful way. And, um, but there's still going to be nuances of the old dream that you're grieving in the new path that's opened.
sure.
Like, I think we as people need to understand that. It's like you're not grieving it. So it's like some of them will just be demolished. Like some of the dreams are going to be demolished. It's going to be a total different plan.
Yeah.
But I do believe that God wants to allow those pieces of the dream that were the old one to come and like be like to like it's like filling like a footprint on the ground of water. Like it's going to come and sit in that new print that um that is being created, because I do believe like there's going to be things that would have been part of the old dream in this new dream that are still, but it's going to be better because of the new path. Like I don't think it would actually fulfill as much in the old path of the old dream that it is in the new one. Like I know
Well,
God can do anything and still fulfill in the old dream. Like he could definitely be like, yo, like it's still gonna work, but this is going to be better.
sure. When you think about what has been happening at Vital, and I keep referring to Vital Point Church, and if you know, I know your listeners are, you know, from different spaces and locations and all that, and
Got
so
people
my
from
reference,
Oregon
yeah,
listening.
Wow. This is my context. So let me
Yeah.
speak from my context. 2014, we start Vitalpoint Church. It wasn't called that. It was two communities merged together. We had a vision of reaching people who are, far from God, never really encountered Jesus before, or maybe did, wandered away, whatever, in our context. That's our heartbeat. That's the vision of the church, is to reach people and see them grow to full devotion in Him. So in 2014, if you were to ask me back then, it would have been one site, one location, mass group of people, maybe a few thousand. It would have been incredible. Over the 6 years, God has been reshaping that dream, that hope, that vision to become a multifaceted movement of Vital Point Church, where now, as of this Sunday, we'll have 6 locations.
Yeah.
Right. And so for me, it's kind of like, okay, we held this dream, this vision with open hands to say, God, you take us where you want to go. I feel like right now I'm a little bit along for the ride, even though I am making decisions with our team and moving this forward and all that. There's still an element of this that God says, okay, I'm going to actually do something a little different. We're going to take the Vital Point heartbeat, and we're now going to start placing it in small towns or in, center of hope, or more strategically online. And I mean, we've been online for years, but there's a piece of that where it's like, okay, now that's going to be stronger. That's going to be more, robust. And so then all of a sudden we're realizing that because we held the dream with open hands, we gave God the freedom to work and move in us to move us forward. And I would never have imagined, I would never have imagined this.
Yeah.
But the heartbeat is still there, the same. But God's going to go, okay, I'm going to fill this in for you. So the advantages of holding a dream with an open hands is that God can shuffle and move and bring things in front of you, and you have to have faith to move towards them to create that future. But then it's just this beautiful, I think when it comes to a journey of faith, it's a far healthier way to go through, realizing that, I can determine the direction I want to go, but ultimately God is the one that's going to direct and move. And I work in unison with Him, and it's just great. I mean, but if I'm holding too tightly to it, then you're going to have to be, you have to go through a breaking point in order to have a breakthrough. So, I mean, I sent you that Instagram image there this morning. In order to have a breakthrough, sometimes you have to be broken.
Yeah. I think that's what's cool about our plans and our dreams. Sometimes we just hold them so tight that they just won't be fulfilled because either culture, teachers, bosses, whatever it is, family members have said, you can do whatever you want. Like, you just got to work harder. So then people just grip harder on their dream. And I don't think a lot of the time those dreams will be fulfilled. And if some of it's weird, like we're almost done here in the conversation, I think.
Okay.
But I do believe people can still reach their dreams and hopes and aspirations for their life with a firm grip. But if you talk to people that have hit those things and hit those goals, if you ask them how they feel, a lot of them, I've talked to people where they said, I burnt a lot of bridges. I'm actually kind of broken inside. I'm not doing well. It looks good on the outside, but I can't let go of this now because this is my life. And I think that's what's tough for when someone is like, I did it all on my own. And when it comes to like an actual fruitful life or something that is moving forward and impacting more people than just themselves, that's when it becomes tough, is when you fulfill the dream all by yourself and now things are like sideways as anything and like you can't let go. It's 10 times harder. And I really hope and pray too that people understand that the loose open hands, I love how you said you can still create the future. Like God wants you to step and move forward. but let's be a group of people, individuals that say, I'm going to rock and roll with this life, but I'm going to have my hands open. I'm still going to have my dreams. I'm
Yeah.
still going to have that. I'm still going to have people speak into my life, but ultimately, I'm not going to be the one that holds so tightly, because I want to be able to be resilient, adaptable, and be able to pivot in this life.
Right.
And I think that's huge.
If there's anything in 20s, how to pivot.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of a trigger word now too for people. I'm done with
Yeah.
pivoting. I don't want to
I'm done
pivot.
with pivoting. Yeah. It's like, I'm
Yeah.
done with the new opportunities.
Yeah. So Ron, before we dad,
Yeah.
what is your last thoughts on this? Someone that's thinking like, man, I've been holding on too long. What would you say to them right now before we end our conversation?
Well, I think in a lot of ways, it's allow yourself the process of the grieving, allow yourself to enter into that space through, times of silence, times of journaling, times where you get together with one or two trusted inner circle people and allow them to speak into the dreams and the hopes
Hmm.
and the aspirations. And I mean, that moment with Rick was powerful for me. When he said, you got to grieve that dream in order for God to birth this new dream. And I don't even think it's a new dream. I just think it's a fulfillment of
Hmm.
what God is seeing in us and through us. But yeah, we got to extend ourselves grace too, and at times be okay with being uncomfortable, be okay with not being okay,
Hmm.
and I mean, don't stay there too long, but also just to surrender it and just say, okay, I'm this particular scenario situation I'm in isn't going the way I thought I should. Well, what is God doing in this? What is God saying to me in this? And it's in those wilderness moments where we can allow God to birth
Yeah.
that vision in us. And it's exciting. It's can be terrifying, but it's
Hmm.
exciting, and just don't go it alone, right?
Yeah.
So
Definitely don't go it alone.
no.
Um, but yeah, thanks so much for this conversation again.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
we've got a couple more left, but
Oh,
it's gonna be fun. So thanks so much. Eh?
okay. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks.
See ya.